Thanks, Victoria. Hi, everyone. My name's Leanne. I'd like to extend my sincere thanks to the MPA for inviting me to participate in this webinar. I'm very grateful to share my melanoma experience alongside the other guest speakers tonight. And I'm also grateful for everyone who's taken the time to watch this webinar, whether it's live or on replay. So I live in the coastal town of Yeppoon in central Queensland, and this land belongs to the traditional landowners, the Durrumbal people. Yeppoon's located 45 kilometres from Rockhampton, where you can access the domestic airport, and it's 659 kilometres from our capital city, Brisbane, which is a very long 8-hour drive in a car. In this picture, you'll see my family. So I've been married to Simon for 22 years, and we have a beautiful daughter named Sienna, who's 13 years of age. As a holistic counsellor, I help people to facilitate change in their life. And I'm also a student of kinesiology and yoga. I use the term student because I don't feel like we ever stop learning as we grow in our life. I'm also very passionate about complementary therapies and in particular how our beliefs shape our experiences in life. So as a child, I lived in Rockhampton and I spent every single school holiday at the beach, where I enjoyed swimming and catching waves, as well as making loved heart-shaped sandcastles in the sand with my dad. Being a child of the 70s, wearing a hat or using sunscreen was not the done thing at the time, and it would be many years before the Slip Slop Slap campaign would be created to promote the importance of skin protection. I was fair-haired and fair-skinned with green eyes, and by adolescence I had a lot of dysplastic nevi moles. And this combination is now known to enhance the risk of melanoma, and it acts as a potential warning sign. In 1987, a mole on my left shoulder became itchy, and like any kid, I gave it a good scratch and it started to bleed. Over a period of 12 months, several doctors looked at this mole and reassured my mother and myself that it wasn't anything to worry about. Young people don't get skin cancer, and melanoma is an old person's disease. That mole continued to bleed, and eventually a doctor agreed to remove it in 1988, where at 12 years of age, I received a diagnosis of stage 2 melanoma. I had my first ever hospital stay to have surgery to widen the excision margins, and once stitched up, I was sent home with a large scar. The surgeon was confident that the melanoma had been fully removed and reassured me that everything was going to be fine. Now, at a time in your life when you're heavily influenced by your peers, I felt very angry about having this diagnosis and an ugly scar, as it made me feel different from everybody else. I now had to stay out of the sun when all my friends got to frolic in it. I had to wear greasy sunscreen and a hat, which was definitely not trendy at the time. And I also had to put up with comments from others about how gross that scar was on my shoulder. And I started to really hate my skin. Fast forward to 4 years, it's 1992, and I'm in year 12. And I've just found a lump just above my left collarbone, which I affectionately named Larry. I'm not sure why I decided to name it Larry, but at the time it seemed like a fun thing to do. And a trip to the doctor to show off Larry the lump resulted in me being referred to a local surgeon in Rockhampton to find out exactly what we're dealing with. And after the surgery, the pathologist diagnosed Larry the lump to be a lymph node that had been replaced with a 95% deposit of melanoma. The surgeon, he suspected that it had come from a primary melanoma that was excised 4 years prior, but clearly everything wasn't fine. I'm now 16 with a diagnosis of secondary melanoma, and in a flash, I find myself lying in the surgical ward of the Princess Alexandra Hospital, surrounded by old people. The surgery to remove 12 additional lymph nodes was performed by Professor Rodney McLeod and Professor Mark Smithers, who at the time was a registrar. And I distinctly remember the compassion Mark extended to me each day on his hospital rounds when I would continually ask him the same question of when can I go home? And he would always smile and reassure me that it'd be one day soon. I remember those lonely nights in hospital feeling so sad, as during the day I was doing my best to keep smiling as to not to upset my mum. However, on the inside, I felt that life just isn't fair. It was during those late night ponderings that there's something shifted in my thinking. And instead of thinking and dwelling on, well, why me? I asked myself the question, well, why not me? I couldn't come up with one single person that I would wish this diagnosis on. And I decided that I needed to accept what was happening and do my best to focus on the positive. From memory, I don't think anyone really knew what the prognosis was going to be for me. It was said I'd be lucky to make my 18th birthday, as at the time there wasn't any treatment for advanced melanoma, such as targeted therapies and immunotherapies that we have today. I was sent home to Rockhampton and required to attend the melanoma clinic at the Princess Alexandra Hospital every 3 months and have regular lung x-rays and blood tests for the next 2 years in a wait and watch exercise. So every 3 months, Mum and I hopped on a train to Brisbane for these checkups, as the cost of flying to Brisbane was ridiculously expensive. And after a few years, the time between checkups was extended to 6 months, and I eventually started seeing a private dermatologist in Brisbane who took over the monitoring of my skin. A 6-monthly date with my dermatologist is an expensive exercise. For me, a skin check involves driving to Rockhampton, leaving my car in paid airport parking, a return flight to Brisbane, at least one night's accommodation, several trips on public transport, as well as the consultation and biopsy fees. And for all of the appointments I've had with my dermatologist, there's always something that needs to have a scraping done and a pathology report. Every few years, I also have medical photos taken of my skin to help me track any changes and also for my dermatologist to refer to during our appointments. So it's fair to say I don't have a holiday savings account. I have a medical checkup savings account. I like to look at the expense of my skin checkups as an investment, as I can say hand on my heart, one of the main reasons that I'm still alive and able to speak with you is because of those 6 monthly checkups with my much loved dermatologist. Early detection really is the key to surviving melanoma. So along with the expense of regular skin checkups, there's also that frequent visitor of anxiety, that internal dialogue of what if the doctor finds something, or what if it's back, or what if I have to have surgery? Runs like a tape loop in your mind. And it can be really difficult for your family and friends to truly understand, as their comments of, you'll be right, or just don't think about it. It really doesn't make you feel any better. I've learned some great techniques that help me to dissolve my anxiety and allow me to feel good about attending my checkups. I now have an inner knowing that I can handle any outcome those checkups may deliver. So in Queensland, it is worth looking into the Queensland Health Patient Travel Subsidy Scheme, which can offer a subsidy to help with attending medical appointments away from your home. That's if you meet their criteria. You can also access medical imaging available through mole mapping or vector machines and clinical medical photographs, with the majority of these services being offered in your capital city. So in 2019, I was approached by the Melanoma March organisers in Rockhampton to share my melanoma story at their upcoming march, which is in support of the Melanoma Institute Australia to raise awareness and much needed research funds to continue their mission of 0 deaths from melanoma. Up until this time, I had kept my melanoma history private, as it saved me the pain of dredging up the past and all those emotions that I had bundled up and squashed deep down inside. It also prevented me from hearing people's flippant comments of, it's no big deal, it's just skin cancer, get over it. But I found participating with the Melanoma March, it really helped me realise that I was not alone on this melanoma journey and that there were other people just like me with similar experiences. There were also a lot of unprocessed emotions relating to my childhood experiences with melanoma, which had me in tears on several occasions during the march. I was really taken back from witnessing the amazing support, family, friends, and the community provided to those diagnosed with melanoma. And I do encourage you to participate where you can in a melanoma march. It was during 2019, I received the diagnosis of 2 level 1 melanomas in the space of 6 months. It was ironic, as one of those melanomas was diagnosed at the time of the Melanoma March, where I was advocating for melanoma awareness. Now, I guess life has a sense of humour at times. But I certainly wasn't laughing. I felt very angry and so frustrated. And I really was questioning where the justice was, as I felt like I was doing everything right, everything that was requested of me. I've stayed out of the sun for years, reduced my social activities outdoor, often missing out on events with friends to the point they stopped asking me to join them. I wear the sun-safe clothing, I wear sunscreen, and I have my regular skin checks, but melanoma just won't leave me alone. I also felt a great sadness at that diagnosis, as the realization came crashing down that melanoma wasn't something that lived in my past. I now realize that it also lives in the present and in some form would be in my future as well. This realization has taken me to a whole new level of acceptance and gratitude for my life. And I've also discovered that volunteering with the MPA has helped me make something good out of my life with melanoma. So to date, I have had the grand total of 6 primary melanomas and 1 secondary melanoma. And yes, it seems like melanoma likes me a little bit too much. With each melanoma diagnosis I've received comes a big tub of chocolate ice cream and a 24-hour pity party as I process the news and prepare myself for more surgery. I have lost count of the number of surgeries and scars that I have, and while some people see plastic surgeons for cosmetic reasons, I get to see them for reconstructive purposes. The majority of my melanomas have been stage 1, which are easily treatable with surgery, and they have mostly been detected by myself, which really highlights the importance of knowing your skin. By being familiar with your skin, you can identify quickly if a mole is new or has changed and take immediate action by seeing a doctor. Unfortunately, there are times when going to a doctor isn't enough. And I have had experiences where doctors have told me not to worry about a mole. And it was only from my persistence to have a biopsy that a melanoma was diagnosed. And sadly, I've spoken to so many people who share a similar story. However, they thought the doctor knew best, and melanomas went undetected until it was too late. Please know that doctors are amazing people, and I have great respect for them. However, they are also human beings who can occasionally make mistakes. I encourage you to trust your intuition. There are just times where you have a gut feeling that something isn't right and your inner alarm bell goes off. And when this happens, I just urge you to take action. Request a biopsy from your doctor or ask for a referral to a dermatologist. So as I learned to embrace my melanoma journey, gone are the days where I get to wear a bikini to the beach. Instead, I'm covered head to toe, doing my best to protect myself and reduce the risk of further melanomas. And sure, there are times when I think, why bother? It does not seem to make a difference anyway. However, I just take one look at my daughter and I know that I want to live the longest life that I can with her. And that is my very reason for looking after my skin. I'm also from a family of 5, which I wanted to share with you. I have an older brother and a sister. And believe it or not, there's 6 people in this photograph who have had melanoma, including my brother-in-law. So I ask you to keep an eye on your loved ones. And if you see something, please say something. If it's on your skin, say something to your doctor. If it's on someone else's, say something to them. You may just save your life, a life of a loved one, or a life of a complete stranger. In closing, I would like to share with you an analogy for the word hope. I truly believe that having hope means to have only positive expectations. So wherever you are on your melanoma journey, please have hope. Have only positive expectations for each day. If you'd like to get in touch with me or find out more information about the services I offer, you can find my website at thehappinessprescription.com. I'm here to help, and I'm always happy to have a chat both online and in person. Thank you for your time.